And joining me right now here on the Miranda Holmes Hotline, talk all things college football to kick off the week. This guy does a great job. You got to follow him on Twitter. And I know he's working on his college football book right now. He is Mark Schipper, Fifth Down College Football. Mark, how you doing today?
What's going on, Mark? I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine. You were telling me off air, and we'll start here, how you worked on your top 25 poll. And I know that the playoff committee is going to release their first poll on Tuesday night. So let's start with yours. We'll go obvious. Who's the number one team in the country in your eyes, Mark?
Yeah, Oregon's holding on to that post. Until they get beat, they're just playing good football right now.
What makes them play good football right now to be number one in your rankings?
Everything is going well in that program right now. They have great players. They're extremely well coached. They're disciplined. They're relaxed in the moment. They just play their football for 60 minutes every time out. Dan Lanning has given them schematic advantages multiple times. He's even working the rules to their advantage. And then the most important thing with football really at every level is quarterback play, and Oregon's getting excellent quarterback play out of Dylan Gabriel and allowing the talent to work. So they're just a very tough out right now, and they look very good. I
think I told you this in the offseason. I saw Dylan Gabriel play quarterback for the UCF Knights in 2019. How old is he now? 27? What has happened here with this guy?
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping he gets his pension soon and he's well taken care of and he retires after a great career in college football.
Can he win the Heisman Trophy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Heisman over the years has really turned into a kind of best player on best team award in many cases. Not all cases by any stretch, but if you're a team leader on a top team that's either going to win the national title or play for a national title, you kind of have a leg up on competition. So he has not been absolutely spectacular in ways that certain Heisman winners have been, but he's been thoroughly excellent for most of the season.
All right. Give me your top three candidates who have a legitimate shot to win the Heisman Trophy then.
My top three, I put out my Heisman hopefuls list this week, and I have six. So I don't have them in any order. Dylan Gabriel is up there. Travis Hunter, if he can stay on the field offensively, defensively for Colorado, he's got a shot. Cam Ward at Miami has been kind of spectacular, even if at times he's been a little inconsistent. And then kind of my other three guys behind that are Ashton Genty, Caleb Johnson at Iowa, and Jackson Dart at Ole Miss.
All right, let's say, hypothetically, you have a scenario. Oregon wins the Big Ten. Colorado's still alive to win the Big 12. Cam Ward wins the ACC. If those are the top three guys, is this going to be a nail-biter where we don't know who the winner would be there in New York in December?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just kind of the moment we're in as a culture right now, I think a guy like Travis Hunter playing offense and defense and everything that he does, I think voters are kind of looking to do something a little different if they can. And Travis Hunter is also a very likable athlete. So I would be extremely interested because Hunter's statistics obviously are going to be far less impressive on paper than the other guys just because of the position he plays. But he's such a difference maker on the field. He could really be that proverbial dark horse candidate to win it.
Okay, here is my case then for Cam Ward at Miami. I watch every Hurricane game. I've watched them for years. I feel like it's the same core, but this time they finally have someone that can get them over the hump, and that is Cam Ward. Because there's been a lot of games this season where they should have lost, and they lost those games in years past, but Ward's been the difference. He's the MVP. Is that okay if I go with him for the Heisman? Yeah,
I wouldn't argue against that. He's been the difference for Miami. I would absolutely agree that he has won several games for them with his playmaking ability, and him winning the Heisman would not be any kind of calamity.
Okay, we're here with Mark Schipper, Fifth Down CFB on Twitter. Okay, you have Oregon at number one, but do you feel Oregon is built to go win a national championship, though?
Yeah, I do. I think they have the players, the scheme, the coaching, the mindset. I think they're prepared to do it. But there is no guarantee of winning a national title. I can't think of a team that's really just been prophesied to do that and has got it done without issue. So even if they are the best, and they may very well be, it's when you got a one and done scenario, anything can happen.
See, I like your answer. I like the tone of your voice because it sounds like March Madness, where they're built to win a title, but are they built to go on a run? Because if you're a top 4 seed, what do you have to play? 3 games to win the championship? We don't know, Mark, do we? If teams are built to do that.
Yeah, we don't. We're going to find out. And the playoffs are they're a whole nother beast. Teams come out in different ways in playoff games, and strange things happen. And then add to the fact, we're not even talking about the NFL. We're talking about college football, which is the craziest sport ever created. Yeah. And anything can happen.
Okay, who's number 2 on your rankings?
I have the Georgia Bulldogs second in my ranking. I think they've proven themselves worthy of that spot, even with their issues. And I got them number 2.
Do you think they're the team that's going to win the SEC then?
Probably. That game against Texas was so dominant, and it was in Texas, and Georgia looked like Georgia along the lines again. Texas is going to have to really improve if they meet Georgia again, and it's for an SEC title. So to me, Georgia has looked like the best team in the league. And then, even a team like Tennessee seems like they have the explosiveness to do it, and they're dangerous enough to do it. But Tennessee, maybe a year away, maybe missing a couple guys. Tennessee can fluctuate week to week quite a bit. So, a team like Tennessee, I'm not certain about.
All right, if you're going March Madness terms, how many bids do you think the SEC gets right now? Because I'd go, if I'm going off the top of my head, I'd go Georgia, maybe Tennessee. They still got to fill out November. Texas, but I think they have to win out. And then maybe a 4th team. Am I missing anyone?
Well, let's see. In play here, Georgia, Tennessee still alive. Texas obviously still alive. I think Alabama is going to have a tough time. Ole Miss will have a tough time, but Ole Miss might still have a shot. I would say those teams. It looks like Texas A&M might not be quite as good as we thought, and they have the out-of-conference loss. So, I mean, had Ole Miss avoided particularly the upset loss to Kentucky, which was really a bad loss, and escaped LSU, Ole Miss looks as dangerous as any team, but Ole Miss has they lost 2 games, so they kind of they hurt themselves.
See, here's the debate question. All right, let's say the SEC title game is a rematch of Georgia and Texas. Is the loser out of the playoff, and then the 3rd team like Tennessee's in? How is this going to work exactly?
Yeah, great question. I have to wait to see how it shakes out when we get a little closer. When we're talking from this point, it's hard to say because we could easily be dealing with 1 or 2 more losses with a couple of these teams. But I also think it's going to depend on how the SEC championship game plays out. If it's a blowout one way or the other, I think you can probably scratch one team off the list. If it's an extremely tight game where it's like comes down to the 4th quarter, maybe goes to overtime, and a team escapes, and it's like, well, these are 2 really equal teams, and just one caught a break on that day, then I think you probably are dealing with a situation where they find a way to get both teams in.
Is Vanderbilt, is that the biggest surprise of the season for you? Because for me, it is.
I think it has to be. It's Vanderbilt. We none of us were even close to alive for the Dan McGugan era of the 1920s and 30s. That was the last time Vanderbilt had any type of serious team. I mean, good Vanderbilt teams in the past, 50, 60 years have been teams that finished in the middle of the SEC and got to a bowl game, a fairly minor league bowl game. So the games Vanderbilt has won, I have them ranked 19th in my poll, and I've certainly never had them that high before. So, Yeah, a huge shock in the SEC, but it's been fun. I hope people are enjoying watching Vanderbilt like this because, seasons like this are few and far between for a program like that.
It's insane. All right, so you have Big Ten SEC at 1-2. You have Oregon, then you have Georgia. Who's 3, 4, 5 in your top 25 rankings then?
Yeah, two of my next three are Big Ten there. I have Ohio State climbing back up after that. It was a dominant win over Penn State. It looked close, but Penn State kicked 2 field goals. They got a touchdown on a pick six on a terribly thrown ball. So Ohio State 3. I have Miami 4, and I don't know that Miami is that good, but they've earned that ranking. And then I have Indiana at 5. And again, I don't know if Indiana is in fact that good, but they've earned that ranking. Indiana has blown out every single team they've played.
Are you out on Penn State after that loss?
Not out. I had them at 3rd, and I dropped them to 9. And the reason I dropped them to 9 is because everything was in place for them to break through, which is what this entire season basically has been geared toward, with the new offensive coordinator and the expectations. And they looked exactly like they always had in the biggest games under James Franklin. He's 1-10 against Ohio State. He's 1-14 against the top 5. And the offense had opportunities, but couldn't get it done. Like I said, that had they not scored the pick 6, that game would have been, they would have had 6 points on the day, I believe. Dude. They didn't look good, but they can recover. There's time for them to recover if this is a wake up call for them and they explode the rest of the way. They
had that ball at the 1 or 2 yard line, 1st and goal. And then I think they ran the 4 worst plays I've ever seen. And I'm a Chicago Bears fan and seen my offense the last 2 weeks. That was atrocious. I mean, what did you think of that when they should have tied the game late there against Ohio State?
Yeah, they had 2 possessions inside the 5 and didn't score. You can't do that and win those games, obviously. But that particular instance that you're talking about in the 4th quarter, game on the line, I couldn't believe it. The first 3 plays were essentially the same play over and over, and they all got stuffed in exactly the same fashion. The idea that he didn't use that play to set them up on 3rd down, like look like you're running it again and run a variation off of that. And then the basic pass on 4th down when the quarterback had one option, it wasn't open, and it was deflected incomplete. I thought it was a horrible series of downs. And the thing that if you're a Penn State fan that has to be so frustrating about that is Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator they brought in the offseason, is one of the most creative play callers in the country. He proved it at Kansas. And that's why they brought him in, to get into the end zone in those situations. So it was a baffling sequence of plays.
Do you believe in Ohio State?
Yeah, I do. It's been interesting under Ryan Day in these big games. He's been very close multiple times, and then he's not been close a few times. But the amount of talent they have on that roster, and then Chip Kelly calling the offense, Chip Kelly can still do that. He's not a head coach, but he is a coordinator. And Kelly, actually, what I thought was the interesting thing is that was Ohio State's off-season move to bring in a new offensive coordinator. They brought in Chip Kelly, and Kelly outdueled Kotelnicki on Saturday for certain. I mean, that was just a decisive edge. Kelly, he gave Ohio State's offense many more opportunities to move the ball, to score the ball, and Ohio State looks like they're in better hands offensively. So, yeah, the Buckeyes, without doubt, can beat anyone in the country on a given day.
All right, you put Indiana, at 5? What do you like about the Hoosiers?
What don't I like about the Hoosiers? They need their quarterback back for certain, Curtis Rourke. I haven't heard an update on his injury. It was a wrist injury, and those can be sneaky. They can linger. But if they get him back, they're just playing such solid ball, and they're playing so confidently. And on the offensive end, they cause so many problems for the defenses they've gone up against. I mean, they run the ball, they throw the ball, they score the ball, and they put so much pressure on the opposing team to keep up that, not long after the game has begun, the opposition is scrambling to try and score points and keep pace, and they get out of their own rhythm, out of what they want to do. They start making mistakes. and Indiana just rolls. So, and Michigan State finally got a lead on Indiana. They went up 10-0, I believe, in the first quarter, and then Indiana just flattened them for the rest of the game. So they've even proven that even if they get down, that they don't lose confidence.
Okay, if I would have told you in July and August the Big Ten title game might be Oregon-Indiana, what would you have told me?
Well, Indiana, obviously, I would have said you're insane, but I hope you put a few bucks down on that prop in Vegas because you would have got spectacular odds on it. Indiana hasn't won the Big Ten since 1967, and that year they were tri-champions, a three-way split, Minnesota, Purdue, Indiana. It was Indiana's lone Rose Bowl appearance in the history of the program, and basically since then, Indiana has not been a contender for anything. They've gone to a couple bowl games, and I think the last bowl game they won was like 1990, 1991, like a Copper Bowl or something. So, yeah, if you would have said that before the season, that nobody would have taken you seriously.
You know what's funny is they're like, oh, it's a basketball school. Basketball team hasn't won anything in a couple decades, if we're being honest here.
All right, they got to diversify their portfolio.
Yes, they do. All right, so that's Big Ten, SEC. Back to the ACC. I feel like Miami keeps winning, but they're not done yet. They still have games to play. But who are the other teams in the ACC? Because we just had Clemson lose. Who else is a contender in that conference?
SMU. SMU has recovered from their early season malaise. I was actually pretty hard on SMU early on. They made the quarterback switch game 3, I believe, and they've steadily improved since. So SMU's only loss, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, is to BYU in a field goal game. And other than that, they have really improved. They look like the SMU that people thought they were going to be in the offseason when, he said SMU could come to the ACC and potentially win the league because the league's not particularly deep, and SMU has stockpiled a bit of talent, and they can score the football. So, yeah, Miami, SMU, and then it's a big drop-off. I actually thought Pitt was a better team than it was, but SMU destroyed Pitt, and that pretty much ended Pitt's hopes of anything regarding the playoff or ACC championship. So, yeah, Miami and SMU, I think, are probably the two best teams in the ACC.
Okay, so I looked it up for you. BYU, SMU. BYU won on September 6th, 18-15. What?
Yeah.
That's the game. SMU killed Florida State, but we'll get to them in a second. 7-point win against Louisville. Beat Stanford by 30. The crazy one is Duke. They win by a point in overtime. Then, like you said, SMU over Pittsburgh. Here's what they have. Boston College at home, at Virginia, California at home. Well, they should win all those games, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would be a major slip-up to lose any of those.
So, potentially, your ACC title game could be Miami and SMU. There's another one no one had, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know what? Probably not. But like I said, there actually was some talk about SMU coming over and having a chance to win the ACC. So that one is nowhere near as shocking as Indiana. But it would be wild to come over year one and play for the title like that.
If you are SMU and you somehow shock everyone and win the conference in year one, should you tell the conference, all right, we want revenue share? Enough of that BS.
I think you gotta shoot your shot at that point.
I think you do.
Absolutely.
Florida State got embarrassed again over the weekend. I don't think they're going to win another game. Are they the biggest disappointment this season in college football?
Yeah, I would say it's one of the most shocking performances in my memory in a college football season, particularly from a power program like Florida State. Particularly coming off an undefeated ACC championship the year before. I can't believe it. And I look at the crowds at the end of the game at Doak Campbell, and the stadium is basically emptied out. Florida State's been basically non-competitive in multiple games, and they're getting steamrolled by schools who they traditionally steamroll. So it looks like a massive mess. I'm looking at the schedule right now. They better beat Charleston Southern the second to last weekend of the season. If they lose that one, I think Norvell absolutely gets fired. So they may squeak out one more win, but it's going to be against Charleston Southern. So that's not too exciting for them.
Okay, then 2 follow-up questions here from Mark Schipper then. You just gave Norvell the 10-year extension. You can't I mean, how do you fire him? How do you do that then?
I don't know. Do you go to the law, legalese? Do you look for a loophole in your own contract? I don't know. You know, I say that almost kind of emotionally that you have to fire Norvell, but I guess what I mean is if he loses to Charleston Southern, it's which I don't expect them to do, by the way, which is also kind of why I said that. I think they'll find a way to win that game, but it would turn so unbelievably toxic for him in every way that it's hard to imagine how you go forward after that.
Yeah, see, I don't understand. My follow-up then is, you know, the excuse is, oh, well, they missed in the transfer portal, or the guys they got in the transfer portal, they left. But all 22 guys on the field, you're that bad? How? I feel like we have to do a 30 for 30 documentary, or you have to write a new book to explain to me how you could be this awful, because I still don't get it, Mark.
Yeah, it's a catastrophic failure. I mean, it really is. It's catastrophic. It's missing the transfer portal. It's missing your high school recruiting. It's missing building a sustainable culture, which I think is the biggest thing about what's happened here. There's too much turnover, too many new faces. There's nobody. The best college football programs pass down culture from upperclassmen to underclassmen, and that's really how it's sustained. Is the young guys are brought in to the martial culture of a football team, and they are indoctrinated into it and expected to uphold standards, and they are held accountable for that. I don't think Florida State has the roster to hold each other accountable, and Norvell has not been able to instill his culture quickly enough. And as the results on the field have almost kind of continued to get worse, players are losing heart in the belief that they have a chance to go out and win every week. And you know, when you're doing that in a heavy contact, dangerous sport like football, and you got guys who don't believe they're going to win, you know, it's hard to go out there and take the punishment in a sport like football when your mind isn't right for the game.
Okay. Let's end with this then. I appreciate coming on. We're here with Mark Schipper, Fifth Down CFB on the Twitter. You look at Florida. They have Billy Napier in year 3. They lost to Georgia. They put up a hell of a fight. They really did. And if Lagway, you know, if he doesn't get injured, I think they're in this game till the end. But they lost. He's in year 3. They might not have a winning season. They're not ranked. What would you do if you were Florida with Billy Napier moving forward?
Yeah, it's a tough question. And they were good against Georgia. I was bummed out when Lagway went down because I love that rivalry, and it was really a fun game. And it kind of felt like anything could happen. And then when Lagway went out, it was like, how long will Florida be able to hold on before Georgia just wears them out? And that's pretty much what happened. So the Gators they're 4-4, 2-3 in the SEC. They still have a brutal schedule ahead of them. They're going to Texas, home to LSU, home to Ole Miss, and then they go at Florida State, which is no longer the test it once was, but still a rivalry game. I don't know. You know, it's pretty ugly with Napier from what I've seen with a lot of fans. They don't believe that this sort of mini turnaround midseason is sustainable or that it really means that much. Now Lagway's out, who knows for how long. If Florida nosedives the rest of this schedule, I would probably expect a change to be made, though, you know, nothing's for certain. Florida keeps resetting the program, and it's not working for him. So maybe Napier gets another year. Maybe he's convinced enough people that there's enough improvement that he should get another chance with his guys. But it's an uncomfortable situation in Florida right now.
If they put out the effort that Florida State did, and they'd have one win right now, would Napier have already been fired from this team?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. If they were playing that way and just getting blown out and no improvement was seen, and even, you know, degradation of the performance was obvious. Yeah, I think he would be. I think it was that bad. But there have been signs of improvement and growth, and the team definitely has not quit on him. So that's something to be said for Napier.
And you notice no one's entered the transfer portal or anything. They keep fighting, all these guys. It's very interesting.
Right.
All right. You're working on the book, aren't you, right now?
Yep, sure am.
What's the book going to be about?
The book is about college football's unique place in American history and culture from its beginnings to today. And I took an odyssey across the country, went to many of this game's best rivalries, went by plane, train, automobile, experienced these rivalries firsthand. And then the book is telling the story of this sport, where it came from, where it sits, and where it's headed, with a lot of travel narration and in-person experience. So for college football fans, I think they'll love the Odyssey, which is going to play a role in the title. I think we're going to call it American Odyssey. So
nice. Mark Schipper, my man, thank you so much for coming on. Have a great week, all right?
All right, Mark. Appreciate you anytime.